Barber Shop Sports Talk.
Oh, you're tuning in for another episode of Barber Shop Sports Talk with me, Darrell, your host as always. Got a great show for all of you today. Al Harris is coming on, Kentucky manager, a friend of Noah Taluki. Noah got that in, so I want to thank Noah, my partner in crime for JCU Television, our show. What's your take? Got to give Noah some love, even though he's wrong on a lot of things. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball, why I think the New York Yankees are going to win the World Series next year, and what is really wrong with the Falcons, what I think is going on with them, and why it's more mental than physical. But first, we're going to start with the World Series. Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Houston Astros. I'm on record right now. I have the Los Angeles Dodgers beating the Houston Astros in 6 games. I love Yasiel Puig, and people forget. Before we had this love affair with Aaron Judge, the star of baseball, he's going to make baseball fun, he's going to make baseball exciting. That was Yasiel Puig. Yasiel Puig was that guy. Puig's had a great postseason. He's batting .400. No, not all that. Justin Turner. Man's come out of nowhere and is playing fantastic baseball. He's batting .387, 4 home runs. Clayton Kershaw, probably the best pitcher in baseball. Yu Darvish, another good solid starting pitcher. And Kenley Jansen, one of the best closers in baseball. I just think it's the Dodgers' time. And I know, maybe I'm a little salty because the Astros beat my Yankees in the ALCS. But I just feel like it is the Dodgers' time. And I know my man's Noah Taluki. We're going to talk about this probably on our show, What's Your Take?, which can be found on JCU Television on YouTube. We're probably going to talk about who's going to win Dodgers versus Astros. And Noah's going to bring up Verlander. And I will tell this. Noah is right about one thing. Noah's not right about a lot of things. In fact, Noah's usually right about nothing. But one thing Noah is right about, Justin Verlander is a bad man. Justin Verlander is a fabulous pitcher. Fabulous pitcher. But the thing is, he can't play every game. He can't play every game. He's only going to play 2 games, probably. Versus Justin Verlander could play all 6 games, all 6 or 7 games in the series, every game the Astros need him. Then maybe things will be different when it's the old days and you can pitch every day. But you can't do that. So I'm rolling with the Los Angeles Dodgers to beat the Houston Astros in 6 games. Now, Cam Newton laid an egg against the Chicago Bears last week. It was really embarrassing, but it's interesting because I knew a kid sort of like Cam in high school. And I won't mention this individual's name because he's my guy. I love him like a brother, but I won't out. But if he's listening, he knows I'm talking about. He knows I'm talking about him. But this kid, right? Always strong, fast, explosive. Was a great wrestler. Really good. Won a lot of matches. Pretty damn good, in fact, in my opinion. But a lot of things, and in my opinion, what held him back was mentally. Every time he lost, he would throw a temper tantrum. You would think he was a 5-year-old child. But he was actually 16 years old. He would sulk, he would curse, he would act like an idiot. And he was never reprimanded for it. And eventually, he kept getting older, through high school, from freshman to senior year. He thought it was okay. Because it was acceptable to him to act like a baby every time he lost. But what he wanted was the guy, he was talking stuff to the other team, to the other wrestler. Just acting in arrogance that just eluded. And you know what? That sounds just like Cam. Cam's 6'5", 250 pounds. Great athlete. Rocket arm. Fabulous smile. Dad was an NFL quarterback. Cam gets, from his whole life, he's been pampered. just like this other individual was. Both great athletes. And in Cam's case, Cam's dad was an NFL player. Pampered. Let him do whatever the hell he wants to do. No really struggle, no really adversity, no really anybody pulling you aside and say, you can't do this. Cam does whatever the hell he wants to. You want to know the only punishment Cam Newton ever got? Well, let me take you back. When he was in Florida, he stole a laptop, got kicked out of school, and he went to Glenn College, top junior college, and won a national championship. Then college football was like, the division was like, oh, on Auburn's like, hey, we'll take you, Cam, we'll take you. What do you think Cam learned? Nothing. That's why now we see Cam, with a couple weeks ago, make remarks laughing. Ha, 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 ha. It's funny females run routes. I'll talk about running routes. Like, oh my gosh, a female could have known anything about football. That is so shocking. So Cam, and I said this in a previous show. We know this is who Cam is. Just like this other individual I was talking about, the other individual did almost the exact same thing. And everybody out there, you've all known someone that was really talented, right? Whether it's a he or a she. It doesn't matter what walk of life. And when things weren't, they always succeeded. But when things weren't going well, they just went in the tank. When things were going well, they were the most arrogant person you could ever be around. Ever be around. It all goes into this. I want my quarterback, CEO, leader of a franchise. First one in the film room, last one out. The most mature person on the team, the smartest person on the team, the most responsible person on the team. Handles losing as well as he handles winning. Remember when Cam Newton was doing the dab thing when the Panthers were 15-1? And they were blowing out, I specifically remember this, they were blowing out the Tennessee Titans, and Brian Orakpo had a problem with Cam Newton dabbing when they were blowing him out, because there's no need for it. You know what Cam Newton said after his press conference? If you don't like it, stop me. Fast forward a couple months later, Cam Newton's in the Super Bowl against Von Miller and the Denver Broncos, and they shut him up pretty well. Cam goes to the press conference and acts like a petulant child. Empty words by Cam Newton. Empty words. And now, he doesn't know what adversity is. Your quarterback doesn't know what adversity is. And I am of the opinion, you cannot be successful without being able to handle adversity in a calm, coherent, responsible manner. Let me give you some names. Steven Spielberg, right? Pretty successful guy. Was rejected by the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts multiple times. I'll give you another famous person. You probably know who she is. Oprah Winfrey was publicly fired from her television job as an anchor in Baltimore for getting too emotionally invested in her stories. Walt Disney was fired from the Kansas City Star because his editor felt he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. In sports, I'll give you some examples in sports. Some of the most talented quarterbacks ever. Aaron Rodgers. He had to play in junior college. Now, not like Cam, who's already at Division I. Aaron Rodgers wasn't getting offers. He had to go to junior college so he could go to Cal. And then when he got to Cal, he was passed over. Not the number one pick like Cam, and was the backup to Brett Favre for a couple years. Peyton Manning. First year in the NFL, led the league in interceptions. And it wasn't clear whether or not Peyton Manning was even going to be the number one pick in that draft. It was him or Ryan Leaf. And we saw how Ryan Leaf ended his career. Couldn't handle adversity. Had everything given to him, was pampered. And then unraveled and fell apart. And I'll give you the last and the best example. Tom Brady, who I think is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. This is what scouts said about Tom Brady. Poor build, skinny, lacks great physical stature and strength, lacks mobility and ability to avoid the rush, lacks a really strong arm, can't drive the ball downfield, does not throw a really tight spiral, system-type player who can get exposed if forced to ad-lib, gets knocked down easily. That's what scouts pre-combine said about Tom Brady. That's some adversity. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Cam, his whole life, has had everything given to him. So when he loses, when he's told no, he doesn't know how to handle it. That's why when the female reporter who he had that altercation with a couple weeks ago, when she came back, Cam didn't even show up to the press conference. Cam deliberately did not show up to the press conference. And that's the first time Cam Newton has ever not shown up to a press conference when he was healthy. How can you be a quarterback and have a petty squabble like that? That is petty. And it's ignorant and immature. And as a grown, you-know-what man, you shouldn't be doing that. But more importantly, you're the quarterback. You're the CEO. You're the leader. You're the face of a franchise. You can't do that and succeed. Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk, I'm going to tell you why my New York Yankees are going to win the World Series next year. Coming up next.
Hit that two-step, I know you can do that. Never had the rhythm, baby, tie the loose end. Hit that two-step, show them you can do that. Show me all your rhythm, let all the emotion in. Hit that two-step.
You just heard rapper, singer TQS. He does all types of music. If you want to feature, contact him at taekwonwarren004@gmail.com. I repeat, if you want to contact him, it's taekwonwarren004@gmail.com. $50 for a hook, $100 for a verse. But wait, there's a caveat. It could also be for free if he likes the beat, verse, or if he likes the hook. Contact TQ West. Oh, we're back with Barbershop Sports Talk. Now I'm going to tell you my Week 7 NFL predictions. What we got right, what we got wrong. 10-5 this weekend. Last weekend to be exact. Solid. Can do a lot better. I still have not got that perfect weekend yet. But we're getting there. Chiefs at Raiders, I was wrong. I had the Chiefs winning, and the Raiders won in one of the craziest endings I've ever seen in a football game. Buccaneers at Bills, I picked the Buccaneers, and I was wrong. Thankfully, I might add, I'm going to keep picking against the Bills, because it seems when I pick against the Bills, they actually win. So that's going to be my formula. Ravens at Vikings, I was right. I had the Vikings winning. Jets at Dolphins, I was wrong. I had the Jets winning. But Jay Cutler did not play for the Dolphins. It was Matt Moore. So that probably had a little something to do with the Dolphins winning the game. Cardinals at Rams, I was right. I had the Rams winning. Jaguars at Colts, I was right. I had the Jaguars winning. Saints at Packers, I had the Saints winning, and I was right. Panthers at Bears, I had the Panthers winning, and I was dead wrong. Cam Newton needs to stop with this Jekyll and Hyde stuff. Cam needs to get his act together and start playing the consistent, dominating football we all know he can play. Titans at Browns, I was right. I had the Titans winning, but not in that 9-12 horrific game that was last weekend. Broncos at Chargers, I was right. The Chargers won. Cowboys at 49ers, I was right. The Cowboys won. Bengals at Steelers, I was right again. The Steelers won. And Seahawks at Giants, I was right. I had the Seahawks winning. Falcons at Patriots, I was right. The Patriots won. Not in the way I could have ever imagined. I had it 28-27 New England. Not the domination, the psychological mess that the Falcons are in. Now, not like that. Not the 20-37. In my wildest dreams, I could never imagine that. And Monday Night Football, Redskins at Eagles. I was wrong. I had the Redskins winning, but Carson Wentz, Fletcher Cox, Michael Kendricks, LeGarrette Blount and the boys, they obviously proved me wrong. And Kirk Cousins showed why he is Kirk Cousins. Not the guy you want in big games, big national television games. So now, I want to quickly talk about psychology, because there's really a psychology to sports, and I don't think people think about it a lot. Mentally is so important. It's even more important than physically. My dad, he always used to say this about Leotis McAlvin. He's a cornerback for the Buffalo Bills. He's like, and Terrence McGee, and contrasting the both. He was like, Leotis McAlvin, because Leotis is a big, strong, physical, fast cornerback, right? And my dad was like, Leotis, he plays for the neck on down. He's like, Terrence McGee is so smart, but he plays from the neck on up. One guy's not really athletic, can't do much. The other one, super athletic, has so much potential, but doesn't know how to play. Mentally, it's such an important thing. When you lose a game, do you think about it too much? When you win, you get too high, actually. Like, a lot of things can go in your mind psychologically. And the Atlanta Falcons are psychologically mush right now. Mush. The Patriots beat them 23-7 last Sunday. The Falcons didn't score a point till about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Falcons, not only that, the Falcons have blown leads to the Bills and the Dolphins, and they almost blew a lead to the Detroit Lions. Matt Ryan threw about 3 picks in that Lions game. Blowing fourth quarter leads. So that sounds a lot like the Super Bowl that they should have won. And actually, even the Falcons' most impressive win of the season, when I was talking about how nobody could beat them in Atlanta, when they dominated Green Bay came back on them almost. So you have the Bills come back and beat you. The Dolphins come back and beat you. And you have the Packers and the Lions that almost come back and win. But not quite. There's something mentally going on with the team. It's like the here we go again philosophy. It's the here we go again in their mind. And I will say this. You cannot forget what happened in the Super Bowl. And I know people like to say, it's a new season, it's a new year. That's bullcrap. It's not. You don't forget. You're up 28-9 in the fourth quarter. You have a 19-point lead. The Falcons are up as many as 25 points during the game. And you lose the game. Because you only ran the ball 6 times in the second half. The same amount as the Patriots who were passing and trying to come back. You don't forget that. There's no way you can. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you think, you can't forget about stuff like that. You think about it every day, every minute, every second. You gave away the pinnacle of your career. The pinnacle moment of your sport is the Super Bowl. It's what everybody wants to be in. You could have been immortalized. How many people win Super Bowls? Not many. And it all went away. You can't forget it. You can't. You can't put it in the back of your mind. It's hard to do. And it takes special people, it takes special players, it takes a special team to be able to do that. But right now, watching the Falcons, they're done. They're psychologically done. I mean, that game in New England was awful. Matt Ryan couldn't even throw for 300 yards, and everybody's been throwing for 300 yards against the New England Patriots defense. The Patriots look back. And it's hard for me now to tell if the Patriots are actually back because of how bad the Falcons looked. How bad the Falcons looked. The Patriots were mulling the Falcons in the run game. The last 4 minutes of the game, the Patriots just ran up in power and just pounded the Atlanta Falcons. And they did the same play, and they're like, you know we're going to do it. You know we're going to do it. You just can't stop us. That is having a psychological hold, a psychological stranglehold. I'm just going to say this. We all remember the Seahawks, right? Marshawn Lynch doesn't get the ball at the goal line. You still hear Richard Sherman talking about it. Still all these other players, Michael Bennett, they still can't stop talking about it, right? You don't forget losses like that. And I think a part of it is you truly have to play sports or even have something in your life that's been so important to you and have it when you know you should have had it. And it goes away. That is so devastating. Absolutely devastating. Now, coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk, I'm going to tell you why my New York Yankees are going to win the World Series next year. Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. Oh, we're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk, and now my Yankees are clearly the favorite to win the World Series next year. Think about it. This postseason, the ACLS. New York Yankees were one game away from the World Series. It's the Houston Astros, one game away. And I could easily make an argument if the Houston Astros don't make that deadline deal with the Detroit Tigers to get Justin Verlander on their pitching staff, the Yankees win that series. Because Verlander saved their bacon in Game 6. Verlander saved the Astros' bacon in Game 6. So far being from that, I could easily make an argument. It's the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. Yankees this year, oh so close. Beat the 102-win Cleveland Indians, who are widely recognized as the best team in baseball. They destroyed Corey Kluber, probably the favorite to win the Cy Young. Corey Kluber had an ERA of 12.79. He gave up 10 hits and 9 runs. And they're young. The biggest part, they're young. Forget about the fact that they beat one 100-win team, and they almost beat another 100-win team. They're young. All their stars: Aaron Judge, 25; Gary Sanchez, 24; Luis Serviano, 23; Didi Gregorius, 27, in his prime; Aroldis Chapman, 27. No, actually, 29. Still in his prime. Lots of their core. Brett Gardner's still about 34 years old, and he's still playing really well. They have that veteran leadership. The Yankees just need a couple more veterans on their team to stabilize them a little bit. Because their youth showed this year. Luis Serviano dug the Yankees in a huge hole their first playoff game against the Minnesota Twins. And then the Yankees lost their first 3 games, the first 2 games against the Cleveland Indians. The New York Yankees lost the first 2 games against the Cleveland Indians, and then they came back and won the next 3 straight. And then this past series with the Houston Astros, the Yankees lost their first 2 and won 2 games, both close. And then they destroyed the Astros in 3 straight games in Yankee Stadium. And the biggest thing, the Yankees don't win on the road. That's problems young teams have. Play great at home, struggle on the road. But if the Yankees fix that, they mesh together, they're going to be pretty damn tough to beat. Pretty damn tough to beat. Aaron Judge had 52 home runs this year. 52 home runs. He was a absolutely dominating power hitter all year. And Gary Sanchez is no slug either. He can hit for power. And my man's Didi Gregorius played great, making people forget a little bit about the man, number 2, Derek Jeter. And Luis Serviano, he's young, he has promise. I'm telling you, all the Yankees need to get, another pitcher, solidify their rotation, another veteran pitcher, 2 more veteran batters, 2 more. Not guys that are home run threats or anything like that, guys that can hit balls, guys that can get on base. That's what the Yankees need. And if they get that, they'll go further than they did this year. And let's remember, this team, they're a couple years ahead of schedule. They weren't supposed to be this good yet. But they are. And that's why the New York Yankees are going to win the World Series next year. Now it's time for a little crazy, lazy, or maybe Kershaw. If we win, I might retire. After the Dodgers clinched a berth to the World Series by beating the Chicago Cubs in the NLCS. Clayton Kershaw said, "It's one of the best days of my life. If we win, I might retire. I might call it a career." Crazy. You're only 29 years old. You got a lot of baseball left, man. Don't be so quick to get rid of your career. Go home, get the shades on, spend time with the wife and kids, hang out and chill. You're 29 years old. You got a lot more left in the tank, Clayton. Julius Randle frustrated about not starting for the Lakers, says Luke Walton. Los Angeles Lakers head coach Luke Walton told reporters forward Julius Randle has been frustrated by his move to the second unit. Obviously, he's a little frustrated about the starting thing. I've explained it's not about whoever being better or playing better. It's about what units play well. Right now, he's playing really well with the second unit. Larry Nance Jr. is playing really well with the first unit. Lazy. Come on, Luke. You gotta realize why Julius is mad. You can't have a brand on the bench. And actually, if you did, that'd be pretty impressive. You can't sell sneakers on the bench. You can't be really marketable on the bench. Being a sixth man is not sexy. Being a sixth man does not sell. Especially when you were drafted as the number 7th overall pick by the Los Angeles Lakers in a rebuild effort. You want to start. You want to get that shine. And right now, Julius Randle isn't getting it. So I understand why he's frustrated. It's bigger than just basketball with Julius Randle. There's more stuff that comes into play. Even though I agree with Luke Walton, the team is better with Larry Nance Jr. in the starting lineup. Joe Girardi on returning as Yankees manager. There's no guarantee for me. I love what I do. I've always said the first thing I do is I always talk to my family first. They come first, because I think when you have a job, your family has to buy in too. So I'll sit down, talk to my wife and my kids, and where they're at, and what they're thinking. And then we'll see what the Yankees are thinking. Crazy. Yankees, you better pay this man. You better pay this man. Bring out the trucks for him. He doesn't need to talk to his wife and family. Give him that nice little contract to assure his wife and his kids. Joe Girardi will be the manager next year. Did a hell of a job for the Yankees this year. Nobody thought they'd get as far as they did. He brought them back. They were a couple years ahead of schedule. One win away from a World Series berth. I calls John Jones the biggest waste of talent in all of sports. Ever in all of sports. The guy is so talented and gifted. God knows what he would have been doing right now if he had never gotten in trouble. He could possibly be the heavyweight champion and have the defense record that couldn't be broken. The list goes on and on of what could have been with John Jones. Maybe Dana White has a point. John Jones, he was a state champion wrestler in New York, by the way. Gotta give New York wrestling some love. John Jones, super talented. He's universally recognized as the greatest UFC fighter ever. And apparently he was on crack half the time. Talented dude. And he came back after a long layoff and knocked out Daniel Cormier, probably the second greatest light heavyweight in UFC of all time. John Jones is a talented dude. And it's just a shame. It's really a sad story. Luke Walton compares Lonzo Ball to Kobe Bryant. I'm not calling him Kobe, Luke Walton said, but Kobe was the same way. As a teammate, I knew not even to touch Kobe in the waning moments because Kobe was so locked in those moments. The players that don't let the pressure get to them, they stay calm. Maybe Luke Walton has a point. He's not saying Lonzo Ball's the player that Kobe Bryant was, but that demeanor, blocking everything out. And sure as hell, Lonzo Ball can do that with all the nonsense his father talks. And Lonzo just keeps going on there and balling. Triple-double against the Phoenix Suns, a near triple-double against the New Orleans Pelicans. He had a bad game against Patrick Beverley, one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA. But after that, Lonzo's played solid, and he's blocking everything out. Just like Kobe Bryant did. And that's it for crazy, lazy, or maybe. So it's interesting. We talk a lot about Lonzo. We talk about LeVar. But I really think there's this dynamic we're missing when we talk about the Ball family. And it's really interesting, too, because I've been watching their Facebook series, Ball and the Family. Love the show, reality. And reality TV is not really even my thing, but if you follow basketball at all, really, or you're a Lakers fan, or you just find it's the dynamic with LeVar Ball, Lonzo, and all those kids funny, go watch that show on Facebook. It'll give you some insight into their family and how they do things. But Lonzo's been, and his father, have been the scope of our attention. That's all we ever talk about when we talk about really the Ball family. But there's someone we're missing. We're missing LaMelo, the youngest son. Because while people in the league are now going at Lonzo. Patrick Beverley in Lonzo's first game came at him. Other players have said, it hurts. We're going to come at you. Charles Barkley said he would try to mentally destroy Lonzo. So it's the hyper focus is on Lonzo Ball because of what his dad is saying to him. But waiting quietly in the wings and nobody's paying attention is the youngest son, LaMelo Ball. LaMelo. Do we realize, the Big Baller brand, LaMelo has his own shoe. That's an issue. Why? Because he can't be NCAA eligible with that shoe. LaMelo Ball cannot play NCAA basketball having his own shoe deal. In the world where the NCAA makes sure that athletes can't get paid off their own likeness, how the hell do you think they're going to let LaMelo Ball make money off his own shoes? And that's eventually going to become a problem. And I don't know if the NCAA has the jurisdiction to tell them to stop it now, because, LaMelo's only a junior, but the NCAA is eventually going to have to deal with this. Because you can't let LaMelo Ball have his own shoe. Else then, all other players are going to want their own shoe. There are players, LaMelo Ball is the 17th ranked high school college basketball player in the nation in his junior class. 17th. So if the 17th kid has his own shoe deal, his own brand, who the hell's to say in college that the number one kid won't want his own shoe deal? The NCAA will not let this happen. And while I think the rule is stupid and ignorant, and it's unconscious to begin with, it's the NCAA's MO to make sure college athletes don't get paid salaries by the university or make money off their own likeness. So while we're all talking about Lonzo Ball, is he good, is he not, how great can he be, can he revitalize Lakers, LeVar saying outrageous thing after outrageous thing, we're forgetting that there could be potentially a really interesting scenario going on with LaMelo Ball in the NCAA. And coming up next, speaking of the NCAA, we're going to talk to a man that knows a lot about the NCAA since he's a manager for the Kentucky Wildcats college basketball team coached by Coach Calipari. Coming up next, we're going to have Al Harris on the show right after the break.
I'm so yeah. I'm so lonely when I leave you. Yeah. Baby, you know I just really need you. Don't got nobody else to compete to. And you are just more than a friend. Together to the end. TQ.
We're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk, and we have Al Harris, Kentucky basketball manager. How you doing, Al?
Good. How you guys?
Doing good. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, because you're a manager, is there's a lot. Well, when you think of a manager, right, you think of, and not that they do all the gritty, nitty work, but you think of like all they do is get the balls and do all that stuff. But is that the case? What actually goes into your day-to-day job of being a manager with Kentucky basketball?
Well, it depends on the program. Here, it's by levels, and I'm sure that might be how it is somewhere else as well. But like here, some of us may have laundry duties, some of us may have other duties during practice and things like that. So it really depends on the program.
Okay. Now, because we were talking about this before we came on, one of the questions you wanted me to ask you was about LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Do you think Kevin Durant's better than LeBron James?
I'm gonna say right now, yes. Right now.
Okay.
I think historically, LeBron's definitely got KD beat, both in rings and skills. But if you're looking at from the standpoint of who do you want to have the ball in the last second, I'm going with KD.
Oh, no question. No question. KD might be one of those. KD's a top 5 scorer ever. in the history of the game. KD can pull it up, can drive, can shoot the three, can post up.
Right.
And he's 7 foot with a handle.
Right.
So.
He's a 7 foot forward. So.
Yeah. But do you think, because I think LeBron's still widely recognized, and for me, I would say I would take LeBron a little bit over Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant is able to play so much freer because he has so much talent around him.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, the spacing on the court's fabulous. You have to worry about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green.
Right. But I think that's part of the problem. People are looking at KD like that, opposed to where he was when he was with the Thunder. What LeBron does doesn't fit for everybody. LeBron has to be that. LeBron was a monster coming out of high school, and Kevin Durant was the monster in Oklahoma City. And he got a lot of crap when he went to Golden State. So the fact that the excuse that he was saying, you have to worry about this, you have to worry about this, you have so many people to worry about, it was the same case with the Thunder. Yes, Russell Westbrook wasn't shining as much as he is now, but they still had James Harden. You got to think back to that. They had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook. And if you actually think about it, when LeBron won his championship, he did the same thing. He went to a team where people could help him.
That is true. Went with D Wade and Chris Bosh.
D-Wade, Chris Bosh, and then now he's back in Cleveland, and he has Kyrie up at this point.
So, do you think that, because a lot was made when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City to the Golden State Warriors, sort of just like how when LeBron left Cleveland the first time to go to Miami. Do you think all that stuff about, it's my team, I'm going to win on my own, I'm going to take all the shots, do you think that's overrated?
I do, because basketball is a team sport. It's not about I. You know, one person can't take a team through 82-plus games all the way to a title. So no matter how you look at it, basketball is a team sport, and you're going to need a team if you're going to beat teams like Cleveland, if you're going to beat teams like Golden State, even teams like Houston or the Spurs. So I think it's very overrated.
So I want to ask you, since you're at Kentucky, college basketball is really big there. This past year, because I know you're a big basketball guy, LeVar Ball has permeated the headlines. Everybody talks about LeVar Ball every day, all day. And particularly last year in college basketball with Lonzo being in UCLA, all you ever heard about really in college basketball was Lonzo Ball, LeVar Ball. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that LeVar's a little bit too much? Or do you think he's just doing enough? Or do you think it's good that he's so outspoken?
Sure. It's funny that you asked that, because me and my dad was just talking about this. I think to a certain extent, LeVar Ball has helped Lonzo become better, so to speak, because now he has to live up to the hype. And I think Lonzo thrives under pressure. Now, as far as all the talking goes, specifically, I think he's a genius. Because, for one, I think he's a marketing genius. For one, he has his own family brand, and that's basically thriving. That was thriving before Lonzo even played a basketball game in the NBA. So, but why was it thriving? It was because of all the talking that was going on of LeVar Ball putting his sons out there, specifically Lonzo. So, I don't know. I feel like I want to see Lonzo live up to it, but time will tell if he can.
And I agree with that, because I've always thought of it this way. I'm at a college, you're at a college. If a college was going to hire the perfect person to teach kids about marketing, LeVar Ball would be the perfect person to hire. He's come from 2 years ago, nobody knew who this guy was. And now he's you can make an argument, he's one of the biggest stories in sports. Everybody knows who he is. People that don't even watch sports know who LeVar Ball is, and they know about his family. So it's just a genius in himself how he's been able to market himself. But I want to know, do you think that Lonzo is actually good enough to back up all the hype LeVar Ball is selling?
I think he can be. When you have Magic Johnson and other Hall of Famers talking about the potential that you have, I think he can certainly live up to it. It's just about will he? Does he have the work ethic too? Because nothing's going to be given to him in the NBA. He has a huge target on his back, and he can probably thank his dad for that. But I really do want to see if he can. I think he can, but will he?
Yes, and it's really interesting when you talk about the Ball family, because I watched their they have a reality TV show on Facebook, and I really like it because it gives you an insight into their family and their family dynamic, and I find it funny when I watch it because I'm like, we always talk about LeVar Ball and Lonzo, but we forget the youngest son, LaMelo, who I think is wildly immature at 16 years old, drove up to school with a Lamborghini or whatever it was, and now LeVar has taken him out of school. So do you think that was a good move? Do you think that's when LeVar Ball goes too far?
Yeah, I do, because I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I've heard that all three of the kids have standing offers to play at UCLA. But I don't really like that choice because, for one, let's talk about Plan B. If he gets injured at any point in his career, at this point he won't have a high school diploma, and if he's even good enough to go to the NBA, and let's say he gets hurt, he won't have a college degree to fall back on. So then where does that leave him? It doesn't leave him with any work experience and no type of degree to get a job anywhere. He'll have to go to school and start his life over pretty much. Because at this point, all he knows is basketball.
Okay, now just to give you let me give you a little pushback on this. Can I put it this way? How about there's like always this thing about follow your dreams, do what you want to do. Now, I think it's pretty clear, at least to me personally anyway, that their family is not. They're not put like LeVar Ball didn't raise these kids to be academics, to be scholars. And now whether we think that's right or wrong, I think that's a completely different discussion, but he bred them to be basketball players. So if he thinks having LaMelo just focus on basketball, that's what he's always wanted. So in terms of that, do you think it's really that bad then? I know you're talking about the grand perspective of it all, but I just want to know your take on that.
If we're looking at strictly basketball, then no.
No.
I believe if you want to be great, you have to put your all into whatever it is you're trying to be great at.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, no. I think it's because one, since we're talking about strictly basketball, if you want to be great, school brings a lot of distractions because you got friends that you want to hang out with, and you got all these things that you want to do. So you'll spend time doing that stuff opposed to getting better at the game. So talking about strictly basketball, I agree.
And I would agree with that because I think there's also something. LaMelo goes to a public school. He doesn't go to Mater Dei or anything like that in Los Angeles. So he goes to a public school. And at 16 years old, he's probably one of the most famous juniors. He's the most famous junior in high school in America. You'd probably say that?
Yes.
There's no other juniors in high school that I know of that's on a national level. So do you think maybe it could have been good for him anyway to leave the public school system? Because there's less protections. You're being exposed to different type of things, and maybe his fame has become so big, he's too big for the school now.
Right. I guess I do feel like it would be. I do feel like it would be distracting, and it would become more annoying as more people get to know you. So yeah, from that standpoint, yeah, I agree with the move from that standpoint as well. But I'm not sure if he's being homeschooled or not, but it would be different if he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he's being homeschooled. Apparently, that's what they're saying.
Okay. Well, if he is, then yes, I think that was a smart move. I think that was a good move.
Okay. Now, I want to stop for just 1 second. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk a lot more about basketball with Al coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. back on Barber Shop Sports Talk, and we still have Al Harris with us, manager for the Kentucky basketball team. Now, Al, what I want to ask you is about for the NBA All-Star Game. There's been changes that have been made. It's now a pool, and it's no more East versus West. There's going to be team captains, and everybody can pick individually who they want on their team. I want to know how you feel about that.
I hate it.
Why do you hate it?
I honestly hate it. I feel like there should be more stipulations. Like I don't know what the rules are for it, but I do know that it's a pool, and I do know that I'm assuming that they'll be able that they're going to do two team captains, and that the team captains will be able to pick who they want on their team. Now, I think that is an unfair advantage to basically all the other players in the NBA who aren't either on the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors. I think that makes it unfair for people like Devin Booker or people like Giannis because, yes, they should be all-stars. Yes, they would be all-stars under the old format.
No. Wait. Well, what's happening is there's still it's still the way it's always been. Like, for the starting five, it's still a fan vote. And then the coaches pick the next guys.
So the coaches do pick the next guys.
They pick the bench players.
Okay.
But
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. It's the way, in terms of... Oh, yeah, you can go.
My understanding was that there was going to be player team captains and that they would be able to pick. I wasn't under the influence that that fans can still pick the starting five.
Yeah, the fans still... But what happens is the two captains pick who they want on their team out of the pool.
Right. I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
And the reason why I like it to some extent is because the East is awful. There's such a discrepancy in talent. I mean, after you get outside of LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, there's really no stars in the East. While in the West you have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Mike Conley, who's one of the most underrated players in the NBA, but he's never made an All-Star team. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, now Paul George, Carmelo Anthony.
Right.
25 of the DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis.
Right.
20 of the 25 best players in the NBA are all in the West.
Right.
There's only about 4 or 5 real All-Stars in the West.
Right.
In the East. So I think I think it makes it more fair because I don't understand because guys like Mike Conley have consistently been denied All-Star bids.
Right.
Guys like Mike Conley. And Mike Conley's a real player now.
Yes, he's a great player.
Yeah. So I think it makes it more fair, but I think it also hurts the East because now only like 4 guys from the East are going to be picked now because that's just the nature of it. But I think that probably is what needs to happen because the discrepancy is so big.
Yeah. Now, I agree. I didn't realize the details of the new format.
Yeah.
But, it's like you said, the battle is really in the West now. So there are more teams that can obviously take down the Warriors, but there's also basically all of these all-stars that people know are in the West.
Yeah.
Other than LeBron in the East. So, I don't know. I like to see how it plays out.
And I want to ask you this question because you were telling me how you had some interesting thoughts on Giannis Antetokounmpo, a.k.a. the Greek Freak, the star from the Bucks that's been playing fabulous this season. I want to know what your opinion is on Giannis.
I actually really like him. I like his skills. He reminds me of Kevin Durant because he is very tall.
He's almost 7 foot.
Yeah, and he can handle the ball.
Yeah.
Like that is very rare to see someone that tall that can handle the ball.
Now he can't shoot like Kevin Durant though. He can't shoot like Kevin Durant.
No, he can't. But he has has a inside game and the mid-range game that I feel like Kevin Durant shows at times but doesn't dominate at. And I saw a stat on ESPN talking about the top 6 people, and I really think Giannis can be up there one day.
Where would you rank him now?
I would have to put him in there. I just don't know where.
Yeah. Because for me, when you talk about the best players in the NBA, for me, I think there's a tier. In my first tier, I have LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Kawhi Leonard. Those are like my first tier, like the guys that I think are clearly the 3 best basketball players in the world. Then I have like a second tier with guys like Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis. I think Giannis is in that tier right now.
Right. But still, like you just said, that's still in the top 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like he'll be up there. I just think he has a lot more. I just think people want to see a lot more before they start to have that conversation. You know what I mean? Because it's still early, so to speak.
Now, you're a Pistons fan, right?
Yes.
I want to know, which incarnation of the Pistons did you like better? The bad boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer? Or the 2004, 2005 Pistons with Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince? Which version of the Pistons did you like better?
I like the bad boys because that was during the tough era of basketball, so to speak, where people weren't calling tic-tac fouls and all of this stuff. They played basketball and they played it like it was a contact sport. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on the Bad Boys, actually, but they talked about it, how they would foul people on purpose, or, you know, they were just a really mean team, and they liked playing with each other. And I feel like the 04 Pistons, yes, they did, but with the way the league was, yes, we got our championship, but if you asked me, could the Warriors beat either team, I would say no, because basketball, the evolution of basketball changes every year.
But you don't think the Warriors can beat the Pistons?
No. Yes, I think the Pistons can beat the Warriors. I think the 04 Pistons and the Bad Boys can beat this year's Warriors team. Only because the game is less physical.
Wait, whoa. Wait, let's qualify this for a second. Are you talking about, like, if you pit the Warriors in this era, or you pit the Golden State Warriors in the Pistons era?
The Golden State Warriors in the Pistons era.
Okay, I can't. I think they. I think they would. I think they would destroy the 04 Pistons with Billups in them. I think it would be a very interesting series against the Isaiah Thomas Pistons. I think that would be interesting.
Okay.
I think. Okay. I think the 04-05 Pistons would have problems with.
I can kind of agree with that because that's when you started to see the change in the league. But like the league is definitely different than it was when the Bad Boys were playing.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this question: who do you think's the greatest basketball player ever?
Ever? I'm not sure. I'd have to say either MJ or Kobe.
Kobe Bryant, my man. About that killer will, that instinct.
Yeah, even though I hate saying it, because I wasn't really a Kobe fan growing up. I think Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan have the top 2 spots.
Al, that was the best take I've ever heard on this show. The best take I've ever heard on the show. And Al, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, coming up next, I'm going to give my Week 8 NFL predictions.
Yeah. So I know. So I know. Tell me your location so I know. Yeah, I ain't really tryna run it up on you. Tell me your location so I know. I ain't really tryna run it up on you. Tell me your location so I know, yeah. I ain't really tryna run it up on you. Tell me your location so I know. I ain't really tryna run it up on you. I'm just counting checks, it's like a band, that's a band, yeah. If you come by, I can show you all the bands. Don't know everything, I got the mans, yeah. Everybody tryna come around and man. Always telling that we just the best. I ain't really got a problem if you wanna test. I ain't really through with Johnny Test.
Oh, we're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk, and now it's time for my Week 8 NFL predictions. Dolphins have Ravens. I have the Dolphins winning 20-17. Not liking the way the Ravens have been playing lately, and I think it's going to keep doing downhill. Vikings at Browns. I have the Vikings winning 20-9, and maybe 9 points is being generous since the Browns are awful. And Deshaun Kaiser, their quarterback, would much rather be at nightclubs than actually studying film, actually trying to get better. Falcons at Jets. I have the Falcons winning 24-23. Out of sheer hope, I hope the Falcons get out of the slump, the psychological conundrum they're in right now. They just need to get out of it, and I really hope they do. Panthers at Buccaneers. I have the Panthers winning 26-24. Cam Newton's going to respond like he usually does when he gets criticism. He's going to put his big boy pants on and play well, and I think he's going to beat the Buccaneers, a team that I was really high on to begin the year, but I think is slightly overrated. 49ers at Eagles. I have the Eagles winning 27-10. Right now, the Eagles are the best team in football. And the 49ers, they might, quite frankly, be the worst team in football. Bears at Saints. I have the Saints winning 28-14. And while the Bears have beat the Panthers, almost beat the Falcons, the Bears have been competitive. I think the Saints are on a roll right now, and I trust Drew Brees. Chargers at Patriots. I have New England winning 31-28, but I would not be surprised if the Chargers won. I'm not completely sold on New England yet, and the Chargers are hot, and they're a team with a lot of talent. Raiders at Bills. I have the Bills winning 17-14. I don't know why. The Raiders will probably win because I said this. Because usually when I pick the Bills, they lose. And when I don't pick the Bills, they win. So let's see if that trend continues. Colts at Bengals. I have the Colts winning 14-13. Both teams to me aren't that great. And actually, I like Jacoby Brissett more than I like Andy Dalton. Jacoby Brissett can scramble, make plays with his feet, and Andy Dalton just can't do that. Texans at Seahawks. I have the Texans winning 23-20. Something's not wrong. So something in Seattle is not right, and they have a winning record this season, but their offensive line is dreadful. And I know J.J. Watt and Marcellus Whitley is out, but still. The Seahawks offensive line is putrid, and I love Deshaun Watson. Said he should have been the number 1 pick in the draft, by the way. But neither here nor there. Cowboys at Redskins. I have the Cowboys winning 20-17. Never been sold on Kirk Cousins, and I was very high on the Cowboys to start the season. Steelers at Lions. I have the Steelers winning 34-31. This is going to be a high-scoring affair. Both these quarterbacks, Matt Stafford and Ben Roethlisberger, are going to throw the ball around, but I trust Big Ben more than I trust Matt Stafford in the waning moments. And Broncos at Chiefs. I have the Chiefs winning 24-16. I'm out the Trevor Siemian bandwagon, folks. Trevor Siemian is a 7th-round draft pick. Let me say this again. Trevor Siemian is a 7th-round draft pick. No matter how well Trevor Siemian plays, I have to remember he's a 7th-round draft pick. And 7th-round draft picks just aren't franchise quarterbacks. We're going to do my college football first 4 in, first 4 out. Coming up next. Now it's time for my college football first 4 in, first 4 out. Alabama, still number 1, been the most dominant team so far this season. Destroyed Tennessee 45-7. Bo Scarborough's a load at the running back position. Jalen Hurts just keeps getting better and better at the quarterback position. NFL players everywhere on defense. So I'm sticking with Roll Tide at number 1. Now, number 2, I have Penn State. They beat down a solid Michigan team last weekend. Saquon Barkley, he's special. Rushed for 108 yards, elusive, can catch out the backfield, great all-purpose back. He is going to be a star in the NFL. And I keep saying, Ezekiel Elliott. That man, he's going to be playing on Sundays. 3rd, Georgia Bulldogs. Had a bye week, but besides Alabama, probably been the most dominating team so far. They've just been mauling teams. 2nd in yards allowed, and Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in all of college football. 4, I have the Clemson Tigers, even though they lost, surprisingly, to Syracuse University. But I have to go with Clemson. Clemson is entitled to a bad game, and I still have them in the top 4. And wouldn't that be a great top 4? Alabama and Clemson. But we have to remember in that Syracuse game, Kelly Bryant got hurt. And you can always have a little bit of a letdown, especially when your quarterback is out. So I'm going to stick with them. Kelly Bryant's healthy. Great offense. Still the best defense in college football. Love how they play, fast, physical. Number 5, the TCU Horned Frogs have quietly gone under the radar, going undefeated. They've beaten the likes of Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and if they finish undefeated with Oklahoma still on their schedule, they will make the playoffs. Number 6, I have Wisconsin, another team who has quietly been undefeated and under the radar. The Badgers are 7-0 this season. Jonathan Taylor, their running back, is 4th in the FBS in rushing, has been dominating so far. Wisconsin, you can always count on 2 things with them. Big offensive line, physical running back equals power football. Running game. They're going to possess the ball and run it down your throat. Number 7, I have the Ohio State Buckeyes, who besides that, laugering up at Columbus in the second week of the season, the Buckeyes have been dominant. And let's remember, the Ohio State Buckeyes were the best team in college football to begin the season. Many people were saying that they could be the team to knock off Alabama. So let's give the Buckeyes some respect here. And number 8, I have Notre Dame. They blew out USC last weekend. Their only loss has been to a fantastic Georgia team. And Josh Adams is running the ball really well. People talk about Shaquan Barkley and other running backs like Bo Scarborough. But people need to remember, Josh Adams, he's a stud. And that's it for my first 4 in, first 4 out for the college football playoffs. Now, it's time for our closing segment. My favorite segment, the night train as we're leaving. This is one of the very few times where all 4 of the major North American team sports are all playing at the same time, which is great. We don't get this many times, so let's enjoy it while we can. Let's enjoy the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and basketball. Let's enjoy all of them, because there's not many times when they're all playing at the same time. Had a great show today. I want to thank Al Harris, Kentucky basketball manager, for coming on the show. Really appreciated him spending his time to come on and really appreciated his insight. Knows a lot about basketball. Man knows what he's talking about. That's all. We had a great show today. And that's it for Barber Shop Sports Talk.
Waiting outside on the porch. I ain't trying to do this anymore. I just want to go and get the scores. Never had the money at my door. Waiting outside on the porch. I ain't trying to do this anymore. I just want to go and get the scores. Never had the money at my door. Now I'm with the bands, well of course. Now my fans are booking all my tours. Never seen me coming up before. Saying that my lyrics need awards. No foreign that I cannot afford. My whip so loud it swears it makes a roar.